defensive and learn to accept some kind of critique is the message today, as a way of developing yourself and this field that we work in, the field of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Currently, I'm on tenterhooks, I don't mind admitting it. I've got a little bit of anxious anticipation and suspense following my recent resubmission of a paper to a peer-reviewed journal. My paper is going to be the first of its kind. So it's quite a prestigious journal that I've sent it into, that I'm working with at the moment, and I just can't help but feel some apprehension with regards to the ongoing feedback. Some of the peer review board have very differing theoretical stances than those presented in my paper, and some have written books and carried out research themselves about very differing stances and approaches. So I've had some slight opposition and recommendations, as well as having some notions suggested for inclusion and development of my future research and work going forward. And I have put hours, I've invested hours and hours of my time and effort into my research. I've worked incredibly hard, even if I say so myself. I've invested myself heavily, and I naturally feel protective over it. I could get defensive, yet I think it's wonderful to receive feedback from fellow researchers, academics, and authors that I've long looked up to. It's truly exhilarating to have a robust critique of my work and to have it scrutinized so well. My work gets better as a result, and I get better as a result. Regularly, I go and look at the reviews of my books and audio programs that are received online. It's not without a slight sense of trepidation. When it's properly qualified and constructive, I take it on board and I do all I can to respond to it. The toughest criticism that we receive is often the place where we grow, develop, and learn the most. And I typically look at it as a way to get better. At the end of courses, seminars, training events, I hand out feedback forms so that we can get anonymous, structured feedback. We can refine, develop, and make our educational offerings even better. Every top quality training that I've ever been on did this, in line with good top quality educational standards and methods. And all the poorer quality trainings that I attended do nothing of the sort. And when working with individual clients, with individual hypnotherapy clients, I want to get honest feedback about how they're getting on and how things can be done better. And this is going to help them more, we'll get better results, and I'll become more effective as a result. Using feedback forms, measuring scales, engaging reflective practice, having regular supervision. These are all ways of ensuring that we, us as hypnotherapists, we look to grow, we look to develop and improve as hypnotherapists. And it's a central part of how we should be working. Yet, I encounter a trend, this kind of proliferation of classic head in the sand attitudes among many hypnotherapists who fear asking for solid feedback, who take it personally instead of seeing it as an opportunity to grow, and who just want to crack on regardless, insisting that they know best. And there are many contributing reasons for this, but one big contributing factor is this very culture of hypnotherapy training and CPD training courses offered, because they themselves do not offer or create a culture of wanting to grow and develop, and instead offer up this singular, impervious to critique type of attitude that does no one any good in the long run at all. Many hypnotherapy training courses that are offered to the public these days are a single model, devised by the school founder or the lead trainer, and some are excellent, I'm certain. Yet there's no critique offered. They virtually sell this singular model and extol the reasons that it's so good, but do not offer up the other side of the debate or offer up potential criticisms of their model or their favored approach. However good the training is, the depth of education is always going to be lacking if there's not a transparent approach to what's being taught. Conventional schools, colleges, universities They're always going to be looking to offer up the stance of fierce critics as well as those supporting a particular viewpoint. Even if the teacher sympathizes with one side, the critique of that side is taught and explored. And this is quality education. This is how a student learns. This is how a field of study grows. When hypnotherapy training simply say, this is the way it is, and do not allow for any critique, it halts potential for growth and development. And currently the field of hypnotherapy is held back by so many people doing just that. Likewise, there are then those individual hypnotherapists and hypnotherapy training schools offering adjunctive CPD techniques that they have devised. Many are excellent, yet the teacher gets defensive when asked for evidence of that technique. They get defensive when a criticism is offered up. They get defensive if someone cannot seem to get it to work for them. They take anything other than glowing praise as an attack. And that's crazy. They need to listen, be respectful and open of what's being said, and use it as an opportunity to grow and develop and ultimately refine what's being offered. Some just dismiss such requests and feedback with an anti-intellectual stance. And I've recorded a video about that before now here on this channel. And we've got to be able to take criticism and learn from it and develop and improve, not just kind of circle the wagons and start shooting at everyone who dares do so. They're not just holding themselves back, they're holding the entire hypnotherapy field back by creating a culture and role modeling a culture that many hypnotherapists then take into their hypnotherapy rooms when they're working with clients. And they will not improve if they hold on to that same reticence to be open to criticism and feedback. When engaging in training, I tell my students, don't just take my word for things, go explore the field, develop an informed and well-educated stance of their own, of their own making, based upon the evidence and their own preferences and their own experience. And the importance of critical thinking is pretty absent in hypnotherapy trainings from what I can see. When we see the need for it in life in general these days, surely we can recognize how important it really is within a therapeutic environment and within the mental health field in particular. Critical thinking should be central to hypnotherapy training and should be taught on all courses. We need to be comfortable asking questions of our hypnotherapy training and not hiding in fear or being silent and buttoning our lip because we're worried that the trainer is going to get defensive. Likewise, we need to get better at thinking for ourselves because so many hypnotherapists want spoon feeding. A good quality hypnotherapy training course should have given you all the knowledge and the skills required to do hypnobirthing or to offer your clients a hypnotic gastric band. Instead, we're happy to pay someone else to package up our existing knowledge and spoon feed us on how to do that. So learn how to take criticism well, like a grown-up. Recognize that everything we do and say is likely to have flaws, and you know what? That's okay. Nothing's perfect, so why not accept that? If we go back, to what I was saying right at the top end of today, stop being defensive, learn to accept critique as a way of developing yourself and the field that you work in. I want to talk about this defensiveness. I encounter a lot of defensiveness. One of the reasons is that because I've got this kind of very particular set of values about the way that hypnotherapy should be conducted, and because my college and I adhere to such an evidence-based approach within our practices, those who do not adhere to evidence-based in the same way, or those who are not aware of it, tends to get defensive. I was recently discussed on a podcast whereby the host claims to embrace the diversity of the hypnosis field, yet also clearly has issues with me and my stance, and is defensive with me due to my stance. And I get attacked a great deal by fellow professionals who struggle to provide anything other than subjective or anecdotal evidence for what they do. And they're like that with me due to my stance, even if I've never mentioned them or referred to them, and this is born out of defensiveness and often feelings of insecurity. It struck me that this defensiveness that I encountered from fellow professionals was very similar to the kinds of defensiveness that I encounter from my clients in consulting rooms, not as a presenting issue, but sometimes as a comorbid symptom related to the presenting problem. And I spend quite a bit of time, a bit of my time coaching and helping clients and others to be less defensive and adopt a very particular kind of mindset. And I thought I'd speak a little bit about that today, and about how to stop being defensive. Because behaving defensively, it's not typically a characteristic that's viewed in a positive way. When interacting with someone that you perceive as defensive, it doesn't feel collaborative or productive. It feels combative. And this kind of subconscious dialogue going on in your head includes thoughts like, why are they being so stubborn? Why can't they try to see a different point of view? Why can't they stop being defensive? They're being unreasonable or close-minded. Chronic defensiveness can be very irritating and quite possibly can cause a breakdown in relationship harmony. Not many things in life are as destructive to good communication and healthy relationships as defensiveness, over defensiveness or being overly defensive. It blinds us to our long-term goals in the face of any perceived criticism. It makes us commit acts of self-sabotage and we lash out when we feel attacked. According to a white paper by Mitchinson and Morris at Teachers College at Columbia University and the Center for Creative Leadership, defending detracts from learning agility or a mindset that helps people develop as leaders and tackle problems that are facing organizations or themselves. Now, for many people, their behavioral patterns sometimes stem from emotional, mental, or personality issues or tendencies that have been developed over the course of their life, of course. And we all have a tendency to feel defensive from time to time, but it's possible for individuals to manage their own defensiveness in a number of different ways. Defensiveness is a reaction. Often it's an overreaction that sends us into a fight or flight response, where our minds are only focused on survival, not achieving the best possible outcome. Luckily, there are ways to control this response. Learning to control your defensive reaction is a process that starts internally and works its way outward into practical aspects of life and actions. So we engage in humble self-reflection, being objective with a self-reflection. To prevent a defensive reaction, you've got to consider a number of things. Ask yourself what triggers this reaction. It could be past experiences, insecurities, or a perceived weakness. But be honest with yourself about them. Accept them. Accept that you're not perfect, and that's okay. You don't have to be. Reflect upon your own defensiveness in an objective, neutral fashion. If you need to stop being defensive, you need to reflect upon what you do and get some perspective. That is, retrain the way you view disagreements. Try to see criticism or critiques as opportunities to learn, not as an attack. You might not agree with the criticism, but it will force you to reevaluate your own idea, improving it, strengthening it in the process. And I said be objective earlier. If you've spent a lot of time and effort on an idea, it's hard not to become personally attached to your baby, your idea, but this clouds your judgment, making your response emotional and not rational. Just like, parents have to let their children grow up and enter the real world someday, you have to do the same with your ideas, with your work, with your processes. And so we stay on topic in the heat of the moment. It's easy to let the conversation get off topic and digress to personal attacks. And that's the quickest way to lose credibility with the other person or with your team or with your field. It also does nothing to resolve the conflict, only escalate it. Stick to the topic. Don't be defensive. Breathe, de-escalate the situations by taking a moment to breathe. Often we become defensive before we realize what's happening, and the ever-quickening pace escalates the situation like a runaway train. Taking a breath puts the brakes on. It buys you some time, allowing you to regain your composure, think more clearly. Just like we would teach our clients to do, Defensiveness is something we all struggle with. In many ways, it shows our humanity, but also that we're passionate about our ideas and our work. And that passion, it's a good thing. But defensiveness warps that passion from something positive and persuasive to something negative and unpractical. One key then to becoming a better human is to face what triggers your defensive response and pull it out by the root. And that's not going to happen overnight, but with time, effort, and by accepting yourself, flaws and all. You can control it, you can retrain yourself, and that's going to make you not just a better human being, it's going to increase your ability to learn and improve in a number of different ways. If you're a hypnotherapist, you're a hypnotherapy trainer, then you know this stuff, you know it. So why not learn to accept healthy critique and objective reflection about what you do, like you do in supervision. Stop being defensive about any stance or approach that differs from your own. Heck, you might just learn something, new and become even better at what you do. That's it today. Do subscribe to the channel. Come visit my college website too. I'll send you my very best wishes. Goodbye for now.